Oh, we're talking about Giannis, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, he just...
People are so upset. I'm sorry it's a regular season award, but...
It is a regular season award, and everybody saw this coming. Yeah, I just actually, while I was going to the bathroom, to put it politely, I was looking at some Facebook comments, and people were talking about how, oh, man, people are taking LeBron James for granted and how people are sleeping on his talents and he doesn't get respect. And it's like, dude, you just know he's not going to win the award. It's a narrative-driven award, and Giannis had the better regular season, and LeBron's already got, 4? And LeBron, if he won the award, should have just scored more and not put together a team of memes, but that's what he chose to do. And Nuggets in 6. I mean, maybe not actually. I think I have the Lakers in 6, but still.
Probably, because the Lakers are better. Hello, and welcome to the Locker Room. I'm your host, Justin Reed, alongside Andrew Tenney, and we are back on a special edition Friday show. It's not that special. We just didn't have time to do it yesterday because we were very busy as an organization. So we got bumped to Friday, and that's fine. You know, I'm over
in a great Chipper Friday mood.
I woke up yesterday morning. I'm just like, we can't even. Like, my whole Thursday was thrown off.
Yeah,
I'm so used to waking up, getting in the studio, and just going to town, and now it's Friday morning,
I woke
and
up
I don't know what to do with
and
myself.
I mowed the lawn. So, yeah,
that's how your day went. Not good.
Turned right upside down.
That's okay. All right. What do we got going on today?
Lucky Bird.
Lucky Bird is the count your lucky stars. If you use Lucky Bird, if not, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's right. And as you guys know, this show is sponsored by Lucky Bird, a Spokane-based e-commerce and digital marketing company dedicated to helping local companies scale in the online world of e-commerce and digital marketing. Visit luckybirdbrands.com to have a down-to-earth, no-pressure conversation about your digital marketing and e-commerce strategies today.
So I actually woke up yesterday, and my first thought was, why isn't everyone using Lucky Bird?
I often think the same thing. Yeah, those thoughts occupy my head quite a lot. But I think that people are, actually. I think people are coming around.
I think so, and they better. My next thought then actually goes to sports, which then ties into gaming with sports, you know, to your 2K, your Madden, your FIFA. New Xbox and new PlayStation come out in November. What do you game? What do you like to play?
For being 23 years old, I really don't game.
Oh, wow.
At all. Like, I was super excited when they put out, like, the Crash Insane trilogy remakes just because that's what I was raised on, and that's the kind of gaming that I like. I don't, care for the war zones and all these battle royale things. Just not exactly my flavor, so I'm not exactly the best person to ask about gaming.
What's your favorite sports game?
It's got to be FIFA. I think it's the most fun. Madden is a terribly made game, and EA is just the worst in every regard.
But EA Canada, who makes FIFA, is pretty good.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Weird.
Yeah, I've
always
totally
wondered why EA Canada makes FIFA. Their soccer up there is even worse than the United States. And that's saying something because the United States didn't make the World Cup, even though they're the most powerful country in the world. They can't field a competent soccer team.
It's a bad week for Canadian sports. Toronto's getting some. Toronto had some awful things to say to a Ryan Russillo. And so, the nice little Canadians that we all think up there actually are just as vulgar of sports fans when they are hurt and losing, just like we Americans. So don't get that twisted. But Lucky Bird did want us to talk a little bit about an event coming up in Spokane. So for all the people that are into sports gaming, specifically 2K, and who doesn't play 2K other than myself?
I was going to say other than you, but yeah, everybody else does.
Yeah, so Hooptown Esports tournament going on in Spokane on September 26th. The event is sponsored by Visit Spokane, also in partnership with Hoopfest, SWX, KHQ, the U.S. Army, of all people, Play Live Nation, and Just Add Monsters. Hooptown Esports Tournament will be played in the 1v1 mode of NBA 2K20 and will be broadcast live on SWX and all other major streaming services from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time. That's on the 26th of September. You can register at justaddmonsters.com. That's just the word add, A-D-D, monsters.com for the September 26th event, and it is free for the youth, high school, and 19-plus divisions, and only $5 for the elite division. So if you have any additional questions, you could also contact the organizer, Steve Walker, at steve.walker@khq.com. So if you're itching for your 2K competitive fix, this is Hooptown, the esports event and tournament for you.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how many people come out for this and how they do the brackets and how everything works. But esports is, a massive industry right now. They're
blowing up.
You're making millions of dollars by winning Fortnite.
That's right.
And you get these kids who are 15 years old and they're winning millions of dollars for playing a video game. And then I just think back, like, thanks, mom and dad. Like, I could have been a millionaire by now if you would have let me play Xbox.
Well, and who's not trying to be a streamer? If you're like under 21, no, even people your age and my age. Who doesn't want to be a streamer? Especially those people that were growing up in middle school and high school when this was really taking off. When we were in high school, that was not exactly a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're getting old.
If I was good enough, I would be a streamer for sure.
Okay.
I think.
Do you have the personality though?
I could, if I was good enough, I would make myself have the personality.
Okay.
I would have to see what the user guidelines are because there are things that come out of my mouth sometimes while I'm playing Xbox that I wouldn't yell.
Like Toronto Raptor fans, right?
Like a Toronto Raptor fan that got decimated out of the NBA playoffs. So exactly, yeah. So it's one of those things where it's just a massive industry. I think it's a great opportunity for people just to get not involved with the community. You're not volunteering, but you are getting involved with other people throughout, most likely Spokane and the state of Washington.
It's a community building event.
It is,
definitely.
and with everything going on, and if you want, it's free for most people. Might as well.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out. That should be a good time. Sports seem to be kind of coming back normal now. Specifically the English Soccer League, the Premier League took an extra 5 months to get their season finished. So they only had these guys. This is the crazy thing. These guys play 70 games a year across all their competitions, and they only had a 4-week break. And they're like, let's do it all again. Mm-hmm. And usually they get 8 weeks, and which still doesn't seem like enough for these kind of guys. But that just returned last week. Man City was given an extra week off since they went far enough in their European tournament. They come back on Monday against the Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Ooh.
And there's a lot of things I don't like about Europe and the UK specifically, but they have some good names for their soccer teams. Like Manchester is a sweet name for a city.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Think about it. In the United States, a big city, let's just say Dallas. Compare the word Dallas to Manchester. It's completely different. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we beat them in multiple wars, and we're like, peace out. We're going to go make our own United States names while you keep your fancy British names.
Boy, what a flex.
We're just better. So essentially, are you in for all of our British listeners, if we have any, I'm not sorry, but it is what it is.
I actually think they occupy the majority of our fan base, but am I in or out on soccer?
Are you in or out on soccer? Yeah, watching soccer.
I'm out. Never really in, to be honest. Okay. There's just too much of it, the scope of it across all the leagues in Europe. And then, I do watch a little MLS from time to time if the Sounders are on, sure. Yeah. Thankfully, they've always been relevant, so that helps.
That does help. That helps a lot because, they've never missed the playoffs.
Yeah, so. And playing at the Starfire Complex, when I was a kid and everything, that sort of emotional attachment tied to the Sounders and everything, that's pretty cool.
Getting pretty emotional up here.
The good old
my
eyes are a little pink, a little watery. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm out on soccer.
Okay, that's interesting. It's the wrong take, but it's fine. I actually do understand the saturation because, you look at you go across Fox, ESPN, and NBC. There's soccer games on almost always. And I think that's the big difference between soccer worldwide and, for instance, even NFL, MLB, and basketball. I guess I should use their names because that's for the United States only. But you look at football, basketball, baseball across the entire world, we don't really get anything else in the United States. We don't see European basketball on ESPN or on NBC, and we get the Premier League on NBC all weekend long. And so I think that's one of the weird things to me because basketball is way more popular, I'd feel like. Not in the world because football is the largest, soccer is the largest sport in the world. But I'm definitely in. I could watch a game go 0-0. At the end, though, I am kind of like, did I just waste my time? No, they still got a point. There's still something involved here. But I get that's fair. I think you resonate with a lot of American listeners.
Well,
here.
It's kind of funny too because throughout middle school and high school, I played soccer. That was my dominant sport. So, I understand how the game is played, and so if I am to sit down and catch a game, I can at least, if I am watching a game that is nothing to nothing, I can appreciate the intricacies and the play and the attacks generated and the counters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I understand the game and I can appreciate it from that sense. However, it's just not, in my opinion, the most entertaining.
It took me until FIFA 10. I started playing FIFA, and then I became a fan of soccer because I didn't understand the rules. I was like, I'm not quite. Same thing for NHL with me. I don't understand NHL rules, and I can't watch it for two reasons. First off, I can't follow the puck.
That I will always say that I can't follow the puck. That is
so
difficult.
The guy who does on NBC who does the NHL is, I don't know what his name is, but he is probably one of the top 5 best announcers in the country.
Okay.
Because I don't understand how he's able to go from player to player where the puck is going everywhere, and he's able to be like here, goal, and I'm like, I don't even know what just happened. All of a sudden, the goal, the puck's in the back of the net, the lights going off, the horns going off, and I'm there like, I don't understand the rules. I'm switching the channel.
But speaking of a little NHL, you kind of got a little news for Spokane's finest, right?
Yeah, Spokane's finest. Tyler Johnson plays for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Actually has carved out a good career for himself, even though he's undersized, which was one big factor coming in. He and Keanu Yamamoto, same thing. Both are undersized guys. But Tyler Johnson has been a decent component of a pretty successful Tampa Bay Lightning team over the last probably 5-6 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's heading to the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't know when that starts. I'm guessing next week.
Okay, Tampa Bay, within that time frame that you just alluded to, has been in the finals.
Yeah,
they've
won it. I think they've won it. If they didn't win
False.
it, they should have.
Also, another former Zag, Spokane's finest again, Kelly Olynyk, shout out Canada as well. He's probably on his way to the NBA Finals, and of course we will talk about that a little bit more in depth here soon. But
that is fun. It's nice having
Spokane represented on the national scale in the pinnacle of sports competition.
Why is his Wikipedia page set up? Oh, there we go.
I'm just going to say no, they haven't been or I think they've been to the final. They have not won.
Yeah, they lost to the Blackhawks in 15.
Okay,
so I think that would have been one of his first years.
Okay.
That's when the Blackhawks, I think, were really good, but that's when they won 3 titles in 3 years.
Yep.
Or 3 titles in 4 years.
It was like them, and then the San Francisco Giants were just like getting titles every year.
And it's like, okay, we get it. We're Mariners fans. We don't know what that tastes like. So speaking of the Mariners and baseball, MLB just came out yesterday, I think over the last couple days, and completely finalized their playoff format. And it's all happening at the new Globe Life Park in Arlington, which I was at actually this summer. Oh. The old Globe Life and the new Globe Life are literally built right across the street from each other. First off, there was nothing wrong with the old one. I loved the old Texas Rangers Stadium. The new one I haven't really seen because we haven't really gotten a good view of it while we've been playing there because they're not showing the stadium with fans. But the entirety of the MLB playoffs will happen in Globe Life Park. And Aaron Judge of the Yankees is not happy. He said, we've gone this whole season being able to do our thing. Now we have to go away from our families and be in this bubble and do the playoffs. And I'm with him. I don't understand the MLB over the last, I think, 25 days I just saw, or maybe the last 21 days. Anyway, over the last 3 weeks or so, they've had no positive tests without having a bubble format. I'm kind of surprised by this.
Okay, I'm not. No. I don't sympathize with you. I don't sympathize with Aaron Judge. Aaron, you haven't even been playing. You can't stay on the field anyway. How do we know that you're even going to be playing in the postseason? You personally, not your team. Also, Yankees stink. Okay.
Hey.
Anyway, so everybody knows that the MLB, when they were trying to come back, was just a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And all of the criticism surrounding the MLB was completely warranted and still is. It's a hot mess. Rob Manfred is a joke.
He's
and
bad.
They are just not helping themselves out with a dying sport anyway, especially as it pertains to younger audiences. But part of this whole deal in this new CBA that they essentially had to make on the fly to bring baseball back in the pandemic, all of it and all of the salaries that they are going to play their players were contingent upon this expanded playoff format that they're going to embark on here in a couple weeks, and all of the TV revenue that they are going to get from that. That is a huge piece of this puzzle, actually probably the biggest. So if something were to happen, and yes, I understand what you're saying, there have not been a ton of positives, especially as of late. Teams haven't been having to post games for other reasons outside of smoke in Washington. Shout out forest fires.
Yeah.
But no, they have to ensure that it will go on. They can't afford any cancellations. They can't afford any postponements. They can't afford to run any unnecessary risk as it comes to the playoffs and all the TV revenue that they're going to get that they have to dish out to the players as promised within the CBA. So I completely understand, and I actually think it makes sense and is the right move just for the playoffs to have that bubble put into place. So there you go.
So I opened up Pandora's box there. I didn't realize you'd be so passionate about the bubble.
No, and I didn't know that Aaron Judge was being a little baby back. You know what about it either? In that just irritates me.
So that set you off.
Yeah, no, they have to do it. I mean, you can blame the MLB, of course, for basically everything. Maybe even the forest fires. Probably started by the MLB. Huh?
Rob Manfred was spotted in Oregon. You know, I know they talked about Antifa being down in Oregon. That was actually Rob Manfred running around starting all the fires down in Oregon. Yeah. You heard it here first. Rob Manfred is an arsonist.
Breaking news. We're breaking news. So that's my take, and I understand why it has to happen, and it does have to happen.
I understand why it has to happen. I don't think it has to happen, and I think it shouldn't happen.
Okay, nice.
But I think
good rebuttal.
That's all I'm going to say on that topic. No, I think it's really. I mean, I get it. I do understand why they want to do it. But I also, it is unfortunate. I mean, he brought up a good point in the sense, like, why are we playing to get first place when we don't even get home field advantage? Like, that's a decent. I think that's a decent point. Now that they're going to get the one.
Can they chalk that up to their terrible play over the past 2 months?
Exactly. They would have if they had something to play for. They would have definitely gone for it.
I'm sure.
But that was just surprising. But not that the Mariners have any worries about that because they're not making the playoffs again, which is fine because I was praying that they wouldn't, which is a weird thing to say. But I didn't want their first playoff season since 2001 to have a
But it's nice because when they lose, it's like, oh, of course, it's the Mariners. They're not supposed to win this season. But when they've played well within the past few weeks, when they have, it's like, oh, hey, this is what we got to look forward to. Look at this foundation.
Look at these young kids just flying around the field. It actually has been a good season. It's been fun to watch and fun to watch.
You can't lose as a fan this season, especially the way that things have ramped up for them in the past couple of weeks.
Exactly, and Kyle Lewis is just fun to watch. I mean,
is there any competition for AL Rookie of the Year?
There is one more guy. I think it's the White Sox guy.
The White Sox are relevant, so it's probably going to go to him. Yeah,
well, Kyle Lewis he has a better batting average, more home runs, more RBIs, better on base percentage, and better defense. So he better get it. If not,
numbers don't matter. Pacific Northwest, man, they don't care.
You will hear it here. I will spend at least 10 minutes complaining if Kyle Lewis doesn't get the Rookie of the Year. So be prepared for that. I don't want to do it, but I will if I have to.
West Coast
does
is
not.
Well, true, but in terms of media voting for national awards,
never gets it. Russell Wilson hasn't even garnered an MVP vote. So
Christian McCaffrey, Toby Gerhart, and Andrew Luck all should have won the Heisman. None of them
probably
did. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's. Are you upset?
I'm going to dive into that on, I don't know, some pod that we have coming up about college football, Stanford specifically.
Well, once it starts up, which is also kind of news, which we'll just touch on real quick before we forget, college football is coming back. Pretty much everybody except the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 has schools in California.
I think they're having a meeting today, though. They're basically just begging the governor of Oregon and California to lift some restrictions there. But the Big Ten's coming back for an 8-game season.
And that was after Trump talked to the guy on the phone, so I think he'll take that as a victory.
That's right. Actually, I think it was Mike Pence working behind the scenes.
I think so. I think Pence was there. But we'll finish up with the Mariners here because they have had some weird stuff going on. Over the last 2 series, including the one coming up against the Padres, they have been on the road as the home team because the smoke has been too bad in Seattle. That's funny. Let's go back to Manfred and MLB in general and the leadership at the top because they played this last weekend in Seattle against the Athletics, and the conditions were bad. And people in Spokane know what bad is. That's how bad it was in Seattle, and people were playing professional baseball in that smoke. And the A's, first off, complained up a storm. They're like, I can't believe we're playing in this. Like, wow. And then Kyle Lewis was like, yeah, I felt it, but I went out there and played. And it's like, yeah.
To be honest, I don't think that baseball – I mean, obviously, if the air is not safe to breathe, nobody should be out there playing sports anyway. But of any sport that could be played that requires – the least amount of cardiovascular endurance, it would be baseball. So I think it's just a little funny hearing the MLB players complain because I went out, I mowed the damn lawn.
You did. That takes more energy.
I was a warrior.
Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers out to you. So that was just soft of the Athletics, essentially, is what I was getting at. And the Mariners are tougher and stronger.
Yeah, fingers crossed that they can play Sunday Night Football in Seattle. I think it's supposed to rain today and tomorrow over in Seattle, so hopefully that should help.
Clear up. That would be a big shame. That would really ruin my Sunday.
Knock on wood.
Yeah,
honestly.
In everything. So So now some more also semi-breaking news over the last couple days is college basketball is also officially returning on November 25th. First practice is October 14th. A couple changes. They could have a max of 27 games, which is down 4 from 31 during the regular season. Minimum of 13, I think, to be eligible probably for the tournament would be my guess. They just said minimum. But it is awesome because there was a lot of question marks coming into the season about if the Zags would even play, and I definitely would have cried myself to sleep for a couple weeks had they not been able to have this awesome recruiting class be able to play. So they are back. They actually might spend I think to almost 2 weeks in Orlando over 2 tournaments to start off the season because Orlando's going to be a pseudo bubble. I think there's going to be like 10 tournaments happening in Orlando after the NBA finals are done. Which will be really exciting and fun, I think, for even all the players. I think the players will be excited for that. But definitely good news that the Zags are back and ready to roll.
Certainly, yeah. I don't know what you would do with yourself, to be honest.
No, nothing.
Probably spend more time with me, which is not overall good for your sanity.
Yeah,
right?
that would be bad news. That would be like breathing in wildfire smoke.
I know.
It's just bad for the heart.
Really.
So we had all sorts of things going on with the NBA. A lot of great games by the Celtics. Now down 0-2 to the Heat.
Yeah, I'm going to plow through the NBA because I want to get to the NFL where I still have
wrong?
An inkling of optimism.
What happened?
Nothing. I'm not even going to get to that series yet. We're going to start off with the Denver Nuggets because they are the ones that deserve praise, credit, and all the glory after coming back down 3-1 to the Los Angeles Clippers, the perennial favorite, the deepest team, playoff PP. Kawhi, defending champion and NBA Finals MVP. So for the first time in NBA postseason history, the Denver Nuggets in 2 consecutive series have mounted 3-1 comebacks. So they really just bring their best basketball and win there in a hole.
Which is crazy because I don't know what the percentages are in terms of just not even, you said the first time in NBA history, but how many times have teams actually come back from 3-1 deficits in the playoffs in general? Just once.
Very low percentage. Actually, no, it's in the finals that was just once. It was in the NBA Finals. Cleveland, of course, in 2016 being the only team to have that claim to fame. But what's interesting, Doc Rivers, head coach of the LA Clippers, has now as a coach, and this dates back to his time in Boston as well, but 2 times with the Clippers, 3-1 leads blown, all by one head coach. Not great. They were scared. They did not want the ball. Marcus Morris was talking that ish all series long, and of course was maybe the turning point when he and Paul Millsap got into it, and Paul Millsap and the Nuggets went on a run, and of course they finished out the series. But the Clippers, they chalked it up to not having continuity, and I do think that's fair. However, I do think it's a cop-out as well because look at the Miami Heat, who we'll get to here shortly. They're all just playing for the first time together. They even had a mid-season trade acquiring Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder, so those guys have only been on the team for a couple months. This is not what you want for LA, and this is the first of 2 years that you have Kawhi and Paul George, and nobody on the team was on the same page. They had no energy. They had no dog. They had no fight. They were absolutely scared. Denver just hit the gas. They did not become the Boston Celtics and become stagnant and complacent with a very large lead. Again, we'll get to that here shortly, unfortunately. But Denver, man, that 2-man game with Jokic and Murray, when it's good, it is so good. What really came through for them was, so the Clippers were doubling Jokic off of the pick and roll in the paint all game long, and he was just carving them up, passing it to everybody. But the key thing here is that the supporting cast, Paul Millsap, Gary Harris, and Jeremy Grant, they were all hitting those open threes.
If they do that, they could. They might win it all if they could do that.
Exactly.
Because Jokic has looked so good at passing the ball, and they talked about it a lot during that broadcast where they said that he might be the best passing big man of all time because of the fact that he doesn't do it just from a post-up position. He can drive and kick it out and be just like a point guard.
Right.
I think that's a fair assessment. He could be one of the best, if not the best, in terms of just doing it all.
And he can do anything because if they double him, as we saw in the paint off the pick and roll, obviously he was finding the open guys, and he's going to continue to do that. Also found multiple guys for layups. not even just the 3-point shots. But if they put one guy off of him or give him a little bit of space, he's going to, have his Jokic game where, he's slow, he's methodic, he's patient, do a couple of dribbles here, there, a little turnaround, get the floater going. He's got the shot for it, so he can really just break that. So the Lakers are going to have to figure out how to defend that a little bit better than the Clippers were able to. His stat line was 16, 22, and 13. Those 13 assists, some of them were just absolutely beautiful. Just really passes of poetry. Truly incredible. And Murray had 40. And this was a guy that we didn't really believe that against the perimeter defenders that the Clippers could throw at him could have the kind of game that he did. And he, for the early games in the series, he wasn't. He wasn't putting up those numbers, and he was kind of stifled. But he was 15 of 26 from the field and 6 of 13 from 3. He was awesome.
Well, they made the adjustments, and the Clippers didn't. And like you said, this is Doc's third time that this has happened, and I think that really should shine a light. And I'm not talking down about Doc Rivers because he is definitely a great NBA coach, but you got to make an adjustment. You're up 3 when you had 3 games to just finish off this series and make an adjustment, and they didn't. And they didn't make one adjustment, and they went into Game 7 with the exact same game plan, and Paul George and Kawhi just completely sank them.
All the pressure was on LA in every different regard, with the offseason, with being up 3-1 in the series, all the acquisitions and everything. Also, a thing to note, I don't think they wanted to be there. Obviously, they were one of the 2 teams after the Jacob Blake kind of halt to this to the postseason happened. They were one of the 2 teams that voted to not return. I think point that's been kind of discussed by reporters and writers that are down there is that the connectivity of the teams that actually are families and actually buy into each other and get along off the court versus those that aren't, that has really shown through in the bubble because you are around these guys every single day, and it has been multiple months now, and you can't get away from these guys. So a team that is not well constructed from a chemistry standpoint, like the Clippers, that has absolutely been the case. But then you look at teams like the Nuggets, who are all in and by all accounts really love being around each other and have a lot of fun together and have really been homegrown by that Denver franchise for the past couple of years. That's really showing. So I think that is something to take into consideration.
It just never looked like the Clippers came back after they voted to not be there. It just seemed like they never got the ability to ramp it all back up, and they tried to skate their way through a game against a series against the Nuggets that they probably assumed that they would win. And like you said, they don't have that seemingly strong brotherhood that some of these other teams have, like the Nuggets, like you said, and they just couldn't do it. And like you said, also they have to do this again next year. And if they don't bring somebody else in, I don't think they're going to be able to do anything special again.
A lot of question marks this offseason. I've even heard rumors thrown around that they might consider trading Doc. Would not be the first time that Doc has been involved as a head coach with a trade. But just briefly looking to the next series with Denver and the Lakers, I'm going to go Lakers in 6 just because I think LeBron's going to be LeBron. I think he understands this window and this opportunity that he has, even though he himself was one of the other people that voted to stop playing. But that's LeBron being LeBron, for better and for worse. But I'm not writing off Denver at the same time. I just won't do it. I don't care if they go down 2 games, 3 games. They're going to bring it. They have no pressure on them. They don't, and they're
having fun. They're literally having fun.
They can play carefree. So I think that will actually be a very sneaky, fun series to watch. But yes, we can blow through the Celtics really quick because they're done. It's over. Miami's a better team through and through. They're better coached. They're better disciplined. They have more shot makers. They play more consistently. They have more fight. They have more dog. They make adjustments. They throw in the zone. It breaks the Celtics' brains.
They're like, what's a zone? I've never seen this before.
They know how to close and finish games, and that's led by the mentality and the drive of Jimmy Butler. And the Celtics don't have that. Anything for me after the Game 7 win against Toronto is icing on the cake. And then, of course, after the first 2 games in which they easily could have won with about 17-point leads in both games, yeah, it kind of gets my hopes up, but ultimately this is a series that Miami should win, and they are doing just that. Boston may get a game, maybe two. We'll see if they can prolong the series, if Hayward can come back and make any sort of a difference, maybe just with the minutes and getting guys rest. He also is one of the better facilitators, and so when they've gotten stagnant towards the end of these games, especially in game one, when they're just running out the clock and Kemba or Tatum are just dribbling at the perimeter, it's like, dude, there's 4 minutes left in the game. You got to drive. And everybody just gets stuck in the corners, and it's like, this is Houston Rockets basketball. What are you doing?
And we obviously have seen that doesn't work.
Yeah, and they just don't know how to do it. I mean, I do love the emotion coming out of the locker room after the game. I think it's coming actually from a good place. It's coming from emotion. It's because they care. And they care for each other, too. And I know they're going to have a team meeting today, players only. Maybe something will come from that. There have been so many stories and instances in the past in which teams have gotten together and that's galvanized them and turned around their season. That's optimistic. I do think they're gonna come back. I mean, who's got more pressure? Who's got more fight for this game 3 than the Celtics do, being down 2-0? But basically, the series is over. Boston needs another piece. I mean, I've talked about this close. Week after week after week. Miami, just the guys that they can bring off the bench. And Duncan Robinson got going. He was 4 for 5, I think, within like the first quarter from 3-point. Tyler Hero, the spark plug that he is off the bench with his scoring. He's a really underrated rebounder. The things that he does, he's always cutting, always moving. An example of somebody that Boston just has not had in terms of just moving off the ball and keeping things going and keeping things fluid, keeping the energy behind the passes and everything. And Bam is the best big man in the series, one of the best. I mean, he's really taken this stage to let the casual fans know about himself, who he is as a player, because he's awesome. And we've talked about it. Jimmy Butler doesn't even have to score to impact the game. He had that points? Save behind the back going out of bounds that led to a fast break layup for Miami, and then he stole the ball from, I think it was Jaylen Brown, and ended up dunking that too.
He even lost the ball there in the last few seconds. The ball was like
he did, and then Jalen missed an open 3 down the on the other side of that.
I wasn't gonna bring it up. You're the one who brought up the 3-pointer.
No, it hurts, man. It hurts. Like I love the Celtics team, and they're a lot of fun to watch, and they have exhibited why they are so fun to watch in both of the first halves of these 2 Miami series games. And then have just completely sputtered out of control. And then you finally get a good shooting game from Kemba, at least percentage-wise. Mm-hmm. And then he's just absolutely a non-factor in the second half. It was fun. I rage quit the game a couple times, turned to Thursday Night Football, check out a little Browns-Bengals action. But, that's what's going on. So, also, this is the last thing that I have to say. Goran Dragic is the best player on the planet. I don't know when the hell this happened. He's always been a really good player, and ever since he had that, I think Miami traded for him, was a sneaky good trade. And he's always been really good, really savvy, really crafty, just a typical European player that is just a savant of the game. But he doesn't miss. He's ice in his veins. Yeah, he's nails. That falling away 3 with Tice's 7-foot hand in his face, and he was falling away.
Don't care.
Paul George would call that a bad shot, but it went in. He's the best player. He doesn't miss. He's incredible. So that's Celtics.
That's Celtics. That's NBA. Well, let's change the subject to get you off that. I know you're over here very emotional, so we'll move on to something a little bit more exciting, and that's the fact that the NFL is back and it is going great. It doesn't seem like there's any coronavirus issues at the moment. The biggest issue, like we mentioned earlier, is just smoke up here for the Seahawks game on Sunday. Other than that, the NFL looked good. The NFL looks very good for not having any preseason games, and this could be a pushing point to get rid of at least 2 preseason games moving forward, because there wasn't much rust. There really wasn't that much rust in the grand scheme of things. Maybe a drive or two as they just get back to hitting each other. But after that, it was just full-on regular NFL. I didn't feel a difference at all outside of some of the noise, obviously, of the fans not being there. But it was fun.
Yeah, the first time, overall, it was a really great first week of football, especially taking into consideration the offseason that was had, or the lack of offseason that was had, rather. But it was a ton of fun. No, it looked like football, and there, as far as the officiating, I thought overall was pretty good. Yep. I totally forgot that they relegated the whole being able to challenge the pass interference. I think that sped the game up. I thought that was good for the game flow. I'm glad that the broadcast didn't have to be like, well, is Pete Carroll or any other given coach that I can't think of. Cliff Kingsbury going to throw a challenge flag on that pass interference.
That's the next head coach that comes to mind is Cliff Kingsbury.
I don't know why his shades were just something to look at on Sunday. But anyway,
there's a guy named Sean Payton who's one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Dude, he's gained weight. I know that's what you do as a coach. If you look at Doug Marrone before he took the Bills job and then the Jags job, man, Sean Payton. Oof, man.
I think what's happening is it's all of that Southern food.
Fair. I mean, if you're living in NOLA,
he's just eating gumbo 24/7.
That's an easy out for him, true. But also a huge thing, I don't know if you remember this last year, I certainly do, but the first few weeks before Brady took to Twitter and was like, hey, what the hell are we doing? Holding flags all over the place. Offensive holding. I don't remember what the number is. I don't have it here in front of me, but I think there were like 18 or 19 this year throughout all 16 games.
Yeah, last year was up
overall.
What did they say, 60% over the first couple weeks. I mean, you were right. I mean, they were calling them left and right. There were no points of emphasis, at least that you can tell this offseason, because this first game, I mean, it was cleanly officiated overall.
It was so much better for the product, for the brand, for the viewing experience, and the fans at large. It was nice. It did not impede the flow of the games. It was really good. I don't know if it could have gone much better. Much like the NBA bubble when that first restarted, the NFL is kind of coming out in a very similar fashion. Yeah,
and I think one thing that that I think we should talk about as well, though, is the viewership is down a lot.
Is it?
Yeah. The late night Sunday game. So the second of the two Sunday night games. Sorry, the second of the two Monday night games this week.
Okay.
They were down. Well, hold on. This is just from last season. They were down 40%.
Wow.
And that also, you go back to the Sunday night game, they were down like 28%. I mean, and this is bad news because nobody's in the stands. I mean, there are, in theory, let's just say, for instance, CenturyLink Field, there's 60,000 people who aren't in those stands who, in theory, would be watching on television.
Right.
So there is no reason why, across the entire scope of the NFL, that any of these games should have been down any percentage points. And if so, maybe 1, 2. But, I mean, 40% is a big decrease in viewership. And even the Cowboys, on the first Monday night game, right? Was the Cowboys?
Sunday.
They were Sunday night, yeah. So even the Cowboys, who's America's team, who always brings in a ton of viewers, was down that 27% or whatever I said.
Nobody wanted to look at those Ram uniforms, those bone gray, bone white, whatever they call them, the bone.
I like
uniforms.
how all the Rams fans are coming out and trying to sell their jerseys, like, look how cool we look, like, look at our awesome colors, and everyone else is like, that's bad.
Stupid little name tag that's just patched there. It literally looks like a name tag, like you're showing up to some sort of convention for how to play football, and they're like, hey, what's your name?
And that's
Los
what
Angeles
they need.
Rams? Whoa.
They need to learn how to play football after everything. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know what the reasons are, and maybe they'll take
I'm not going to speculate.
I'm not going to speculate either, but if I had to guess, the only thing I'm going to speculate a little bit. The only thing, I'm not going to say this is the reason why, though. The only thing I can think of, it has to do with some of the pregame festivities going on, but that's the only thing I can think of on the fly. But we'll see if that changes this week, if the viewership gets adjusted. Maybe people forgot that the NFL existed because of no preseason games. Maybe there's another reason, but that's also not.
I don't know. They're missing out. I really don't care.
They are missing out. It was good football. The Seahawks looked really good, and Russell Wilson they looked really good for.
On offense, they looked really good.
Their defense was just fine, though. They gave up. The Seahawks are now, I think, 10-0 under Pete Carroll, after giving up 400 yards of passing or more.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they also are like 3-0 or 4-0 if they give up more than 500 yards of total offense.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how differently that game goes if Atlanta converts one of those fourth downs.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the make or break. I mean, the defense was bent a ton. Our corners were awful. Of course, there was no pass rush. Shocker, considering they didn't do anything to remedy it in the offseason. Shaquille, even when he did have a receiver in front of him, he missed so many tackles. He did have one good play defending the seam route against, I think it was Hayden Hurst. swatting that away. But he looked terrible. Quentin Dunbar looked like he was out of football shape and just out of
the Seattle system.
Competent shit. Or, sure, if you want to call it that. Of course, Jamal was kind of the eraser on the backside, but he was playing down by the line of scrimmage a lot, which is where we should be deploying him, and I'm glad to see that, especially in his first game, that we did do those things. It was an interesting game for the Seahawks fans because there were all these narratives of let Russ cook and, wanting maybe some changes in defensive philosophy and not playing so much base, but actually getting, athletes out on the field to cover, like a Marquise player. Delano Hill played a lot of snaps.
They played a lot of dime, and he was
and he played well, and I hate him.
He had
terrible.
The one play up the seam that he missed that he cramped up on.
That's right. But
that's the only one. But
he played well. He was making tackles out in space. I was really impressed. So
surprisingly, because he has been bad.
He has been terrible. He and Tedrick Thompson back there was just
not good.
It was cancer. And on offense, obviously. So apparently they game planned for it, and this is not something that we should expect every single week from the Seahawks to throw it 30-plus times a game. But it does sound like Shoddy and Russell are going to game plan week by week, which I'm really encouraged by. Something of note, Shoddy had moved up to the booth rather than
which I hate. I'm glad. If it helps him, that's great. But I texted my buddy and I told him, I said, I hate when my coordinators are in the box.
I agree, but apparently it did wonders for him because...
Which is great news. Then stay up there all year long.
Because on that third down toward the end of the game and on that sluggo route to DK, he called that because he was able to see the tendencies of the cornerback that was trying to jump the slant routes all game long. So apparently that play was a result of him being up in the booth.
I get the logistics behind being up in the booth.
Just makes you kind of look like a Nancy.
It does. Like I want my coordinators being on the field and just going chest to chest with their players and just want to be smacking their
football
helmets.
Guys, right?
Big football guys is what I want on as my coordinator.
No, I totally understand that, but if it works, I'm really not going to.
No, I won't
bicker about it.
I won't whisper another word the entire rest of the season if Brian Schottenheimer can lead a top 5 offense.
Right,
is essentially what I'm hoping for. But no, I think the Seahawks. For week 1, at least, I think was a very good showing. Yes, the pass rush was lacking here and there, but they did have a few times where they actually did get to Matt Ryan. We also have to remember that this Atlanta offense is good. This is a very good Atlanta Falcons offense with Julio and Matt Ryan, who have been there forever. They have a competent offensive line. They have for years. They have solid tight end play, and their 2 and 3 wide receivers have always been good. Perfect complement to Julio. I think one thing that we should take from this game is the fact that, first off, they were healthy. They had nobody get hurt, which was big for a
Rasheem Green had like a neck stinger, and I don't think he's going to play on Sunday. But to your point,
but
yes.
Still, I mean, like if that's what we have to deal with, I'm fine with that because having a shortened off season, a weird off season, even across the NFL, I can't think of a major injury that happened to somebody that I'm like, ugh, that's a big loss for the NFL. Not saying that Usamo, or however you pronounce his name, for who the Bengals, I think it was last night, or the Browns.
Uzoma,
the tight end, he tore his Achilles. He's out for the year. But
Marlon Mack was one. Michael Thomas got an injury, but he might be able to.
He's on my fantasy team, so that one hurts because this is now my fourth. You wanted my last 4 first-round draft picks. Michael Thomas was last year, or was this year.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley was last year.
Okay.
Adrian Peterson was 3 years ago when he tore his ACL, maybe 4 years ago. And then I had the year of David Johnson when he broke his wrist. So those are my last 4 first-round draft picks. So I'm upset about fantasy in general because I lost. But I am projected to lose only by 0.5, so I actually have a chance to compete this week.
Okay, quick question. Yeah. Do people care less about hearing about the dreams you had last night or about your fantasy team?
They care. What do they care less about?
Yeah.
Dreams.
I would argue, but I think I think it could go either way. 2 topics of conversation that nobody really cares about because you're just talking about yourself.
People care about Team Reed. Speaking of talking about myself, my birthday is next week, the 23rd. So
how old are you turning? Like 34?
Something like that. Hey, 37. And also this jersey I got for my birthday in 2005. So I don't fit it, but I mean, it's not the worst. Wow. It still counts. But yeah, next Wednesday, don't forget, day before our show.
Yeah, we're running out of time here, so why don't we do this? Why don't we list our top 5 teams after week 1, and then let's do a brief reflection of our record from last week with our picks, and then move on to our picks for this week.
Perfect. All right, power rankings. Let's go.
Okay, I got Kansas City at number 1, definitely. 1 to 5. Kansas City, Baltimore. I put Green Bay up there because I'm all the way convinced now that it's just going to be an FU tour from Aaron Rodgers all year long. So really good things there, and I think their defense is maybe just as good as it was last year.
Yeah.
New Orleans looked good. I'm still not a huge subscriber to Breeze, especially as the season goes on, and he's played a lot. But they look good. Their defense looked really damn good, especially their secondary and their corners, Janoris Jenkins and
pick six.
Marshawn Lattimore. Man. And then Seattle.
Yeah.
Because, why not? So honestly, there's nobody else to put at 5. Honestly, I think Seattle was a clear-cut better team than anybody else I could have put in there at 5.
So I'm going to be a homer. I have the Seahawks at 2, actually, just because. We'll see if they're able to actually keep up with that. But yeah, Chiefs at 1, Seahawks at 2, Ravens at 3, Saints at 4, Packers at 5. So we it's going to be our top 5 is exactly the same, which isn't surprising. Let's go on to the picks update.
Okay.
Here we go.
So you ended up at 11-5 last week. I ended up at 10-6. I don't know if you remember this, probably not, because I'm sure you're going to have a selective memory about this. But even though I picked the Bucs to win the division, I said that they might not get off to a great start.
Yeah.
And then when it came down to pick time, you pressured me, and you're like, oh, you have to pick him now. You have to pick him. But I didn't want to pick him because I thought New Orleans was going to be more battle ready. And what do you know? That ended up being the case. I will take the ultimate responsibility for
I was going to say, why are you blaming me?
To your pressure,
Don't
but
blame
I'm
me
just
for
salty.
Your shortcomings.
I'm salty as a loser.
Salty. Yeah,
I'm salty as a loser
I
this
beat
week.
You.
I'm salty. So you ousted me by one game.
Also, we just got this from the producers. Are you kidding me? They were so bored they couldn't finish typing out Broncos. Titans v. Bronc.
I'm not here for the Sam shots.
That's bad.
I'm not here for the Sam shots.
If we get this again, we're gonna
Sam,
have to make changes.
I love you.
We're gonna have to make changes behind
the
cameras here. But yeah, so not surprising. I had more wins this week. So let's just.
If DeAndre Swift catches that touchdown too, that's another.
Fine. I wish he would have because
me too.
that was even though he was on my bench, but that's not good news for moving forward. But. Let's move on to our week 2 picks here. Let me pull it up, what the games are like. So last night.
Right.
Okay, yeah, no, dude, go ahead. Your turn.
I was just going to say, so we couldn't pick the game that happened last night because it already happened. However, I will own up and say that I was bullish on the Bengals last night.
I also was going to take the Bengals.
And that running attack from Steven Stefanski, nice. Yeah. Kevin Stefanski and the Browns was really something to marvel at.
310 rushing yards, 210
between Kamara
and
Jesus, that's not even.
Let's Andrew's going to take about 10 seconds here while I introduce the picks here. So, first game is Sunday, and the Jags in Tennessee. Let me get to my picks here. I am picking. I really wanted to pick the Jags here because Minshew Mania is flying high, and I love me some Gardner Minshew. Also, I don't think people are talking enough. I thought about this last night. I don't think people are talking enough about the fact that his first name is Gardner. Yeah. Do you know how many people who have the first name Gardner?
Not a ton. It's a last name.
It is. It's very much a last name
for a first name.
He has 2 last names.
Yeah,
guy. Yeah. So I really want to pick the Jags, but the Jags are just so bad overall. But I am going to pick the Titans for that game. I think their defense gets them by. I think Tannehill is a game manager. The fact that also that the Titans were, I saw a power ranking, I think it was CBS, Pete Prisco had the Titans at 5 in his power rankings. I'm like, get out of here. What? The Titans are not a top 5 team in the NFL. Top 10,
no.
I'd argue. Not a top 5.
All right. Top 10 would even be a stretch. For all of that logic you just put down, I'm going to discard that completely and go with the Jags, baby.
You just have to make up your ground somewhere.
Exactly.
So that's fair. I mean, I like
any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday. That's a good way to look at it. Next up, we have the Panthers and the Bucks.
I got the Bucks. Rebound. Tom Brady can't afford to go down. I'm not being pressured into this pick.
I think Tampa Bay is going to start slow, but I'm going to pick them to win this week. I also have the Bucks.
Okay, cool.
Mainly because I think Brady has a nice bounce back game. He was pissed last week at himself. Bruce Arians came out and threw him under the bus. Said that's Tom's fault, and it's true.
I thought that was dope. Honestly.
I thought it was awesome.
And everyone's like, "Whoa, are there problems in the locker room?"
No, not at all. Brady probably appreciates it. Brady's probably like, "Yeah, I suck."
He's a psychopath that wants to be coached harder than any person that's ever walked the face of the earth, and Bruce Arians is all about giving it to him. So,
all right, well, let's move on from that.
Literally and figuratively.
We're about to get into something we shouldn't be getting into. Denver and the Steelers.
Give me the Steelers.
Okay, I also have the Steelers.
Their defense is just too good, and
yeah.
I do like Locke, but I think that secondary is just going to lock Nice. Him down.
Wow, that was
I didn't even try to do that.
The coolest thing you've ever said on the show.
Better than the Carrie Underwood reference. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
that was my shining moment. My career peaked last week with that Carrie Underwood joke.
It did, and we're all downhill from here.
Truly.
So I also have the Steelers,
Sick.
And mainly, I don't know how fun that game will be. Moving on to the Rams and the Eagles.
The Rams, this was one of my bigger overreactions. Like, I'm not in on the Eagles anyway. I'm not in on Carson Wentz. I don't understand his believers. Like, I understand it from a talent perspective, but I feel like the plate of evidence that we have just so strongly indicates that it's not going to be it for him. No, I'm off on the Eagles. Their offensive line is in shambles, and I know they've had some tough injury breaks. But their defense isn't looking. You give up 27 to the Washington football team and Dwayne Haskins in that running attack. Like, good for Washington for showing out and winning that game at home, and Rivera having to take an IV at halftime because he's battling cancer and chemo. Ultimate football guy. That was freaking awesome.
Football guy.
That was freaking awesome. But I'm off on the Eagles. I hate the hype around them. I hate all their defenders. And give me the Rams because they actually look good.
I'm going to pick the Eagles because I want the Rams to lose.
Fair.
And they are so ugly. And their jerseys are also ugly, too.
Really ugly.
LA's full of ugly people outside of their head coach. McVay's a good-looking guy. But for that reason, I am picking the Eagles. I'm not saying that the Eagles are any better looking because Philly people are unfortunate looking. But we have the Niners and the Jets, and as much as I would love to pick the Jets, the Niners better win this game.
Yeah, the Niners should win. The Niners, they got a lot of injuries, especially in the secondary. They're pulling you and myself off the street for cornerback this week, but it's nice because their next two games are against the Jets and the Giants. So if you're going to have
beaters, absolute world beaters.
If you're going to have a pinch of injuries, this is the time to have it. So that's kind of a nice break for them. But yeah, it's going to be the Niners, especially after taking that unexpected week loss. Except I predicted it.
The Niners, good man, nice. You proud?
A little bit.
Okay, fair enough. The Niners' defensive line is going to eat Sam Darnold up. He's probably going to have another 7-turnover game.
Probably.
So be ready for that. Buffalo and Miami. The Dolphins are also not very good.
As long as they're playing Fitzpatrick, like, they're probably just not going to be competitive. They're just throwing the season away. Like, let's see something. Like, throw Tua out. There's no reason at this point unless you truly just want your fans.
I think Tua watch should start happening. I think week 6 is when we're going to see
That's too late. There's no reason. Fitzpatrick is not going to keep you in games, or at least against well-built teams. He did not.
He has the Fitz magic.
He did not.
Beard
so
is full of magic. He just has to shake it out, and the magic falls out.
Give me the Bills. The Bills are going to be the new Patriots in terms of how everybody is always talking badly about the Patriots and how they have 6 super easy games every year. Hey, so do the Bills now, and with how well that roster is constructed. Yeah. So in most division games, except for we'll see what the Patriots end up looking like after more than just one game played. But yeah, give me the Bills over the Dolphins all day.
The Bills have a good defense. Josh Allen will not be able to continue what he did last week. I think he ran the ball like 14 times. That won't be able to continue, but they have a solid enough offense and a very strong defense. Bills also. Vikings Colts. I have the Vikings. They are better than the Colts. Phillip Rivers looked terrible in week 1, which is really unfortunate for a Colts franchise that has been scrambling since Luck decided to abruptly retire last year.
Jacoby Brissett's just a better option than Phillip Rivers is.
He's safer. I mean, and that's what the Colts needed last year, and they played pretty well, but Phillip just tosses it up with his short arm throw. It's like he's throwing it to one of his 7 kids. It's the ugliest thing to watch.
It is absolutely horrendous.
I wonder if his 7 kids at home are like, that's our dad?
I would be.
I mean,
I'd prefer you here watching the games next to me on the couch, Dad.
I like Rivers. I always have. I think he seems like a very passionate guy. I hate playing against him though because he always seemed kind of douchey. Like he just had that much energy that it kind of threw me off.
It's like, hey, shut up.
But yeah, no, that's enough of that. Did I already say I picked the Vikings? Who'd you say you picked? The
Vikings.
Okay. We have the Lions in Green Bay. Packers offense looked very good last week, even though they didn't get anyone else for Rodgers. But that's fine. So I picked the Packers.
Yeah, give me the Packers too. Lions secondary is not very good to begin with, and they're very hurt. And we saw what Aaron did last week against a better, or at least on paper, Vikings defense. Give me the Vikes.
Packers.
This
was probably one of my more difficult matchups of the week to pick. Falcons at Dallas.
I'm going with Dallas. I don't think they can afford to start 0-2, even though I picked Atlanta for my wild card. But, yeah, I'm going to say Dallas rebounds, and I think that defense, if Seattle could do what they did to that defense, I don't think Dallas is going to have any problems, especially with the offensive line. I think they got to figure out their mix of run and pass a little bit more. There were a lot of gripes after Sunday night's game as it came down to the play selection, especially in the second half and toward the end of the game. But I'm confident that was maybe just a one-off and not just an example of the age-old Dallas Cowboys story.
Yeah. Bears-Giants, which is not a very fun game, in my opinion, to watch. But I have the Giants because Trubisky just doesn't do it for me.
That's fair. I actually had a hard time. I wanted to pick the Giants. I really did. And
I wanted to pick the Bears.
Well, I'm going to Bears.
Yep. Okay, so then we have the Washington football team against the Cardinals. I have the Cardinals. That offense looked good. I think their defense is good enough to deal with Haskins. I think the Cardinals will actually have a pretty good year.
I think this could be a competitive game. I think Washington will be in it, but I am also going with the Cardinals.
Chiefs, 10 times out of 1.
Chargers they did not look good. Tyrod Taylor, man, everything that I said about you last week.
Well, they didn't give the ball to Eckler. He had one. He threw it to Eckler once.
They didn't even block it that well either.
No.
And then they had that guy coming off the bench. Was it Joe Kelly or Josh Kelly?
Their third stringer, even over Justin Jackson.
Man, and he looked really good. So, yeah
that's weird.
Not good.
Baltimore and the Texans. This is a brutal start for the Texans.
Awful.
I also have the Ravens. Should be a fun game, I think.
I doubt it. I think they're going to kick the piss out of them.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think the Texans have a prayer.
All right, fair enough. We're going to skip on the Seahawks here real quick. We have the Saints and the Raiders.
I'm going Raiders. Upset.
No, I'm not. Sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were going to be logical about this and say the Saints.
No, first game of the Death Star, even without fans. Give me Gruden.
Wow, that's the wrong choice. I picked the Saints because our buddy Vinny behind the scenes here is going to like me better for saying that after I made him mad earlier this morning.
And we have 1 minute left, so what do you think about the Seahawks and the Pats?
Seahawks will take this game. I think Cam Newton had a bad showing in week 1. People talked about how good he looked. He was 15 for 19 for 155 yards.
Okay, yeah, but he also had like 15 rushes for 75 yards.
He's going to get broken by week 4.
It's his first
by
week in an
4,
offseason. He's getting acclimated to the system and Josh McDaniels
I'm not buying
and the receivers.
Not buying into it.
Okay, well, you should be a little bit more wary of the Patriots than perhaps you are.
Nope. Not worried.
Burped.
Anyway,
I'm picking Seattle, but I think it's going to be a good game.
It'll be a good game, but the Seahawks will win. Let's jump real quick into our jabronis.
We can't.
Yeah, sure we can.
No, we can't.
Yep, jabronis. Let's go. Mine's really quick and easy.
Okay, go ahead. I won't do it. Go ahead.
Mine's the Instagram link. Instagram. I think that's hilarious. That guy, that was last night. His mask went up over his eyes, and he threw the penalty flag. It's literally over his eyes. He's not a big jabroni. He's a little jabroni this week. Okay. I feel bad for calling him that. And real quick, let's end just like we did last week with the closing time. Let's pull up that YouTube link, or I think it was a YouTube link. This actually, for the first time in a while, I actually jumped off of the couch and celebrated this play.
Was this a screen pass?
No.
Damn.
No, so this happened. This was this weekend. Kyle Lewis for Rookie of the Year. Look at Ken Griffey Jr. out there.
Yeah.
He just saved a – look how – I loved how pumped he was. I mean, he's literally like a kid.
I don't know. That was a little Raul Ibanez, if you ask me.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke.
I mean, look at that. I mean, that actually –
that was sick.
I was like, he got it. He robbed it.
That was sick.
I mean, that's a good rob.
That was
for a grand slam. That's not even just a solo shot. He saved 4 runs there. That was my closing time. We are done here. We will see you next week when I also beat Andrew in our week 2 picks, and I'll be able to talk about that. But until then, check out the Esports tournament. Use Lucky Bird for all of your marketing needs, and we will see you next week on The Locker Room.
Everybody enjoy week 2. Thanks for watching The Locker Room on Spokane Talks. Check us out on Facebook as well as our other platforms. We want to hear from you. Join the conversation by emailing us at info@SpokaneTalksOnline.com. And for more sports news, opinions, and content, follow Justin and me on Twitter.